Hey there, welcome to Find Your Sun. I'm Cass.
And I'm Mare.
Join us as we find our sun through movement, nourishment, and well-being.
Awaken through the power of play. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, Sunseeker. Today I have a really special guest coming. She has helped me in a personal way, and today we're diving deep into a conversation that I think others could also use as well. That's how to break free from anxiety, people-pleasing, and perfectionism so we can finally love ourselves more. And to guide us, we have an incredible guest, Dr. Stephanie Lopez. Dr. Steph is a former NASA psychologist and healing coach who helps women get out of fight or flight mode and reclaim their peace. She's taught me so much about nervous system regulation, self-forgiveness, and shifting out of self-doubt. I used to think that my anxiety and people-pleasing tendencies were just a part of who I was, but through her guidance, I've learned how to take ownership of my emotions, trust myself, and truly show up for life in a way that feels good. So if you've ever felt overwhelmed, stuck in the cycle of trying to control everything, or constantly seeking validation outside of yourself, this episode is for you. I'm so excited to have you on, Dr. Steph. Thank you for coming and welcome to the Sun Podcast. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So Dr. Steph and I have she knows all of my secrets. So she can pull it out of anybody, I feel like, but she knows everything about me. So I thought, why not have her on, talk a little bit about everything that she does, because she is such a unique source of wisdom. And I think so many people could benefit from your coaching.
Thank you.
Yeah. So let's just start off with a question that I think might resonate with the women in our community. So anxiety is often seen as something that just happens to us. Mm-hmm. But you've helped me realize that it's deeply connected to the way we try to control outcomes and please others and live up to impossible standards. So in your work, do you see these patterns show up most commonly in women, do you feel like? Or why do you feel like these patterns show up most often?
Yeah. Well, I target women, so I'd be biased if I'm like, yeah, totally women. Uh-huh. I do have some men post on, in response to my ads or my posts, and they're like, why is this not for men too? Can I watch, your training? And I'm like, go for it. I don't mind. I just prefer working with women. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Most of the time I hear people think that they're just an anxious person. They remember always feeling anxious, and this thing made me feel anxious, or that thing, or this trauma. And most have no idea what's actually happening. I'll tell a little bit about myself.
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you.
I fell into this.
Yeah.
I had anxiety my entire life not grad school. It was undergrad. I diagnosed, some air quotes for everybody, diagnosed myself with generalized anxiety disorder. This is just the way that I am.
Sure.
And I had reoccurring emotional breakdowns, as well as people-pleasing, perfectionist tendencies, all the things. But my reoccurring emotional breakdowns were roughly every 3 months. And it was so severe that day, whenever I had a breakdown, I was not functional. I couldn't do I was hyperventilating. And at the time, I was working at NASA. I was 2013. I started February 2013 there, and I signed up for this 5-day workshop, which I heard various things about. And it's the crying class. It's going to change your life. People get divorced after they do that. And I'm like, what the hell
what kind of class is this?
What is this?
Wait, no, what kind of class is this?
Well,
okay.
We'll keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're like, wait a second.
What is this?
So I didn't know what to expect, but I went and I was like, I'm going to be open to whatever happens. And I walk into this white room where there's a circle of chairs and, AA vibes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. Within the first hour, one of the facilitators said, every reaction that you have is always based on how you feel about yourself. And I took it literally. I'm a very literal person. So some people might gloss over that. Oh, that's a cute little metaphor. Oh, yeah, nice. And I thought, I don't feel good about myself at all, because I'm having a lot of really big reactions all the time, and worrying all the time, and feeling anxious, and what if. And I had just paid like $100,000 for my PhD, and I'm like, I don't know that I didn't pay for it, I had loans, but like, how am I ever going to pay this off? All this kind of, all kind of emotions. Anyway, so went through that experience, and by noon on day one, I was like, I have to spread this to as many people as possible. Everyone has to know. And that is the foundation of everything I do. I never actually worked on my anxiety. I did the inner work starting with this 5 days, and it solved the anxiety issue.
Really?
Yes. So what did I do? A lot of things. A lot.
Yeah. I mean, you had to go through a lot. Like, how did they pull this or how did they pull this out of you?
Yeah. I will say,
how did you pull it out of yourself? Because you are the one that's in control, right? You have to be the one that's like evaluating internally. And
yeah. If I went into everything, we'd probably be here all day. But there's one thing that I want listeners to know. Anxiety is mismanagement of other emotions. So people want to solve the anxiety problem, and they use a number of different tools and strategies and this and that. And it's not even about the anxiety most of the time. It's about the other emotions. You trying to, and I'll speak for myself, me trying to control myself in the environment, and what reaction was okay for me to have, and what was okay for me to say, and what wasn't, and just suppression of everything. Think about it. If you have a beach ball and you're in a pool, and the beach ball represents all of the emotions, and you're just going like this, trying to shove it down, keep it down, like don't let it come above water. That's essentially control, suppression, avoidance. I'm not doing this. I don't want to feel this way. That's what people do every single day. So when that happens, it creates tension, which feels like anxiety. Or it can show up in other ways. Rumination, rage, physical pain. And when I say physical, it could be, IBS, it could be back pain, like chronic issues I'm talking about. And so those are what happens when we're not managing emotions effectively.
And not letting them out.
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like when we were working together, something that I was dealing with was being afraid of how other people would react as well.
Yes.
So it wasn't even just like I could feel my own emotions personally, like by myself, I felt like, but then like I always worried about how it would affect others. And I feel like that's maybe where you say like people pleasing is a piece of that anxiety.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I have one client who told me a story one day. She said, oh yeah, she has 2 kids, and her mother-in-law came to watch them so her and her husband could go on a date or something. And when they got back, her mother-in-law expressed that her kids were a lot. I can't remember all the words that she said, but it was just like a lot to take care of them.
Yeah.
And in that moment, in her mind, she said to herself, she'll never watch them again. And so I want you to ask yourself the question, maybe you can't resonate with that particular example, but how often does somebody else's discomfort prevent you from showing up the way you want to show up, from asking for what you want to ask for, from doing the thing that you want to do? What if I get comfortable with you feeling whatever you're going to feel? And I could say to you, there's a story in my head right now that because of that, you don't want to watch them anymore. Is that true? And then I solved that problem. What if it's okay for people to feel what they're going to feel?
Because you can't control what they're going to feel.
No.
And I can't change it either. And I can't make it right for them either.
No.
It's like we're all experiencing these emotions, and we're carrying them around. And a lot of the times, like, it makes us feel a certain way, or like judge ourselves because we think that someone else is judging us. And they might be.
They might be. But if I think you're judging me, I'm judging me.
Yeah. Like we judge ourselves the hardest.
Yes.
So it's so important to like understand. I think that we can have this balance with it. Like we evaluate ourselves because that's, I guess, keeping us in check on what we want the most out of life. But yeah, I have a particular thing that's coming to my mind, a situation that happened last year for me actually with a very close friend. And I essentially like lost my friend because I started doing this podcast. And that was like, I have a lot of judgment towards that right now because I feel like, oh, am I doing something wrong then? Like, am I like where I'm just trying to give to other people something special? Yeah. And for some reason you don't ever know like how someone feels. And this is like a best friend.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Life's weird like that, right? And you can't really make sense of it, but yeah.
Brings me back to a moment when I first started my business. I shared with one of my friends who was not a best friend, but a close friend. And we don't talk anymore. And what I realized, we had talked a little bit, is she had very similar goals for herself. And so to see me actually pursuing them was too painful.
It gave a rise.
Yeah. And so I knew I don't need to take this personally. Like, it's just too painful for her and she's not ready to sit with that. Exactly. And that's okay too.
And it's like, I love her so much, but I want to like, but I felt like there was a lesson in all of this. And I needed to protect my space in a way. And whatever growth came out of it was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've had my own growth because I keep going. Like I can't just stop because someone feels a certain way. I want to share something special, you know? Yeah. Wow. I'm glad you shared that with us.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for sharing yours. That wasn't even on my radar until you brought that up. And I was like, oh, wait, I had that experience.
Yeah. Well, I think there's like this competitive nature that we can have with people that are similar to us. And it's hard not to just like focus on yourself. Because we all like, I feel like I just saw a podcast episode of yours where you're like seeking external validation and stuff. And you're like comparing yourself to others. And that kind of just leads me into one of the questions that I had for you is like, how do you suggest that people stop looking for that, seeking that external validation and help them try to find that validation within and that internal validation rather than trying to seek it elsewhere, like in social media or friends or whatever it may be.
Yeah. It's not bad to want external validation, whether it's from your partner or friend or whoever it may be. There's a line. It's the energy at which you're wanting it from. Like it can get to the point where it's more than just, oh, I want this and I need it to feel okay about myself. I need it to feel worthy. I need it to feel good enough. And that's like the red flag that you've got to turn it inward. Giving yourself appreciation is a small part of what heals our insecurities. Okay. And so if you have, everyone to some extent has insecurities in 3 areas. Not feeling like they matter, not feeling capable enough, not feeling likable. And there's nothing that we can ever receive externally that will ever fill the void if we're not giving it to ourselves. And so when it comes to the external appreciation, one concrete thing that you can do is take credit for even incremental improvements or to notice, to say when you're proud of yourself. And so it could sound something like this. I'm proud of myself for catching myself after I agreed to do something and then saying, actually, let me think about this. Because in the past, I would have just told myself, well, you already said yes, so you have to do it. And so it doesn't have to be huge things. It could be small things. And sometimes those are the most like important things to give yourself credit for, because people are always measuring, and I'm guilty of this too, to this ideal that keeps moving and keeps moving. And then it can feel like, well, I have so far to go. And it's like, look at how much you've improved and you've changed, and take credit for that.
That's the neuroplasticity, right?
Yeah.
Of our brains being able to rewire how we feel about a certain expectation of ourselves.
Yes. So why does this happen? Various reasons. I'll share a personal story. When I was in high school, I have a very distinct memory of my best friend from that time saying, I'm really proud of myself for. I have no idea what she was proud of. I don't remember the details. I just was so shocked. And in my head, I'm like, I can't believe she just said that. Because I was told that's not okay.
Yeah.
You can't say that you're good at something. You can't talk about how you've gotten better. You can't say you can't take credit for things. Like, other people have to tell you. So now I got explicit messaging like that, and not everybody does, but most get implicit messaging that it's not okay to acknowledge what you're good at and what you're proud of yourself for.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely a takeaway that I had from doing one of your retreats. And I think it is hard when you grow up that way to, and I can't remember if it came from my parents or just from society. But I was like, oh, dang. And that's something that we've kind of like reintroduced into the podcast as well. It's just like, especially when New Year's came around, like giving yourself credit for how you've grown within the year, you know, like it is small changes a lot of times. And so they are harder to see, but just making note of them does really help. Like, it's helped us, I feel like, even move forward. You know, continue growing. So, thank you for that.
And then like not having that idea of like we've talked a lot about like being perfect is overrated. And this idea of perfection, it's only yours. Like no one else.
Your perfect is not my perfect. No.
Like there were two totally different ideas of perfect.
Yeah.
So like even if you were to judge like my perfect, like it's not even perfect.
No.
So like it just doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
But society makes us feel that it exists. Our relationships make us feel that it exists, but it just doesn't. We're all here on this path, and like we're all figuring it out on our own. And it's, I think, understanding that and like accepting that idea is really powerful and freeing. And so I think that that's another thing. I'm sure a lot of like our audience are thinking about this because they're high achievers or they struggle to let go of like that need to be perfect in every area of our lives. So how do you think that we can do that? How do you think that we can learn to let go of that feeling?
First thing that comes to mind is make it okay to make mistakes. Another personal story. They're just coming through today.
We love
this
stories.
Is about, right?
Yeah.
I was in grad school and we had to read so many peer-reviewed articles, you know, journals, whatever.
All kinds.
Just ungodly number.
Every week, like 3 or 4, right?
More.
You had more? Okay, that's crazy.
It was so intense. I'm like, I don't get this. Anyways, there was one that was about making mistakes. And I wish I could remember who the author was, what the title was, but all I remember is the takeaway was like, you should actually try to make mistakes. And I just could not.
Yeah.
My jaw was like on the floor, like I feel like I've been lied to my entire life. Like, what is this? I have worked really hard to avoid making mistakes.
Yeah.
For real.
Like real hard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
To walk the line, to follow the rules, to not make mistakes, to not screw up, to not ruffle feathers, to be perfect. And now you want me to try?
Yeah.
And it had, I don't even remember the study that they had, but basically they did an experiment where they showed that the people who allowed themselves to make mistakes ended up being more successful.
Yeah.
And I wanted that.
So true.
So I'm like, well, I want the results. So maybe I should actually think about
more mistakes.
Make more mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I just heard do you know who Sarah Blakely is?
Yeah.
She's, okay. So I just like watched a reel and she was saying how her dad would come home and at the dinner table ask them like, did you fail today?
I love that.
I loved that so much. And so like I went home and I asked my kids that because I want them to have that mindset as well.
I love that you already applied it too.
Yeah. And I need to apply it to myself more. It's still like this like inner work is such a journey. And I feel like I'm like, okay, it's okay if it's like C work sometimes. Like you just like do like put it out there and try and like, don't make it perfect, you know, just like be you and like the rest will come, you know? So,
okay. Another thing's popping in my mind about mistakes specifically. I went to a big business conference in December. So just a couple of months ago. And my mentor is the one that runs the conference, and he has spent the last year or two learning to play the guitar. And in my opinion, he's really good.
Wow.
Yeah. Real good.
Yeah.
And he came out and he did like the national anthem on the guitar.
Oh, cool.
And he messed up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was probably a second, but it was obvious.
Yeah.
Like, ooh. And then he kept going. And I didn't think about it again.
Yeah.
Then later, maybe it was the next day, we had a lunch together with a smaller group of people at the conference. And I was in that lunch and he brought it up. And he brought up how embarrassed he felt and how he had beat himself up. He had practiced every single day, like that song, multiple times a day for 3 weeks. Like he knew it. He knew it. Yeah. And so it took him to a low spot. And then watching how others responded when he brought it up, they're like, that's actually my favorite part of the conference so far. Like to see you just like pick up, keep going, and to know that you make mistakes at your level, because he's super, super successful.
Yeah.
It was inspiring. And so that's really important to remember too, is that like, I actually not only need to make mistakes for myself, but I need to make mistakes to make it okay for those who are watching me.
Can I tell you, I have to look this up because this quote has been so important and it's downstairs in our gym right now.
Yeah.
And my husband brought it to me, and it's someone who made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan.
Yes.
I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed.
Yes.
I failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed.
Honestly,
Right?
like, yeah.
Like keep just taking those shots, because if you don't take the shot, you will never know if you're going to miss or not. And he also talks about like, someone asked him like if he was worried about missing a shot. And he was like, actually, I don't ever think about the shots that I haven't taken yet.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the shot I'm going to take 10 years from now. It's about taking the shot that I'm taking right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
And this can tie to insecurities as well, because if I have an insecurity that I'm not competent enough or not capable enough, that stops a lot of people. Whereas my mindset is, can I curse on here?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I will fucking figure this out. I will figure this out.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Yeah. I love that. And, you know, when I was talking to my kids, and I feel like my son has said this a couple times, and he was like, you don't make mistakes ever, Mom. And I was like, what? Yeah, I do. And so I even thought like, okay, like next time you make a mistake, like point it out to him. And so like even yesterday, I just like went to the wrong drop off line, just random. And so I just like walked over to the door, and I was like, yeah, I had a brain fart and I went to the wrong pickup line. See, I make mistakes too. You know, even just small things like that.
Small things. Now my girls all the time, they're almost 5 and 7, and they'll say at least weekly, well, I made a mistake, but everybody makes mistakes, so that's okay. Because I don't want them to have the same struggles that I did.
No.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I love that.
You really have to like sit in that, because that perfection, that level of like, I feel like it's like almost like protective sometimes, especially as a mom.
Yeah.
Like we feel like if things aren't running smoothly, perfectly, then everything's going to fall apart. So how do you deal with that with your kids? That level of like, you want to protect them.
Yeah, I have this mindset. If you have like a specific question, you can ask, but my general mindset is if I'm showing up perfectly, I'm doing them a disservice, because they're going to go out into the world and it's not going to be perfect.
Nothing is.
It's not going to be anything like, you know, always doing the right thing and following the rules and this and that. And then they won't be prepared. So I am preparing them by letting them see me make mistakes, by me mess up and repair, by me not having everything together, that's going to serve them far better.
Yeah, you actually just hit the nail on the head, because I was thinking for a second that I wasn't, but no, like that is when my husband and I have an argument.
Yes.
Like we argue about it. Like they are allowed to see us having this moment because they need to see us resolve it too.
Yes.
And that's because I never saw my parents argue once, but they had, I won't talk about them too much, but they had their stuff. And all of a sudden, like I realized that the world wasn't perfect. And that was earth shattering at a much older age. Yeah. Like I think it's so important that they have those tools to know how to resolve them.
Yes.
Yeah, because if they don't see it modeled for them, then they're not going to have the tools themselves.
Yeah.
I saw the fights. I didn't see the repair.
You didn't?
No. And that matters.
Oh, yeah.
Us doing it with our partner, but us also doing it with our children, and always repairing with a high level of self-accountability.
Yes. Yeah. Always taking ownership and going and to apologize and having this reflective moment. I think it's very important.
Never you made me feel.
Yeah.
You made me do that.
Yeah.
Or even subtle inferences to that. Or if you do, then take ownership for that as well. Like, I realize I blamed you and that's not what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you speak more about that? Because I know you talk about that a lot in your workshop as well. Like dive a little bit deeper.
Sure. Do you have a specific thing coming up? Just
like you make me feel like, I feel like a lot of people, and I do this too. Like I have been like, oh, you made me feel this way because you did this or something, you know, like how do you get out of that mindset and really take ownership of that, you know, because I know we can say that, but then how do you actually do it?
Well, you've been to one of the retreats.
I do.
So this, I give people an experience when they come in person so that they don't just learn it cognitively, but they learn it in their whole body. And in about 27 seconds, I show people how many choices they are making in not even a minute. And it's about 50 in this exercise. And so once people have the experience of, oh, shit, I didn't recognize any of that as a choice. I thought it just happened. Then it's, where else in your life are you showing up this way? And once you begin, and this can take more than one. So I find that when my clients come to more than one retreat, it just goes deeper and embeds more into the way that they show up, and lots of value there. But once you see, wait a second, what if, and I'm not saying that this is correct. I'm not saying we can prove it, but what if I choose everything? That is going to get me a lot further in life if I take on the mindset I choose everything than if I think I choose none of it or some of it. Because if I think you make me feel, then you will always be able to make me feel. And you're
giving your power away.
Exactly. Yeah. But if I take on the mindset, what if I choose all of it? My brain will look for ways to solve the problems. If I think I don't, it won't look for solutions. So I always encourage employees.
You did at one point, students. Right?
Yeah.
I do encourage my own employees to this too, but
they're all working. Yeah. They're working towards something. Yes. And you're coaching them. It's like you're a big mentor, you know?
I always encourage clients to take on that high level of self-accountability. So it could be, you can still have a conversation with somebody where something that they did ended up happening before you had a reaction. So when this happened, when you left the lunchbox, why is that in my head? On the counter again, I noticed that I felt XYZ. And so you're still acknowledging there's a behavior and there's a feeling, but it's taking ownership of that. Not like you made me feel like that, but I noticed that this happened for me. And then I still have control and choice to change that experience.
So I think on a grander scale too, when people say like, oh, my life is like this because of somebody else or because of these certain external circumstances. I think that mindset can start to create action. Like if you're able to shift the mindset to create action for yourself and give yourself power back and saying like, oh, that wasn't actually because of them or because of this external circumstance. It's because I'm choosing to stay in it.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah, like I guess I think of one of my siblings and like I feel like there's a lot of self-doubt and negativity, and it's always he's the victim in a way. And so you can see yourself as a victim, or you can choose to like step out of that box and decide to choose for yourself.
Yeah.
Empower yourself.
Yeah.
Which, that's talking bravery. Like, how do we tap into that like brave side of us, right? Like, what are some of the questions or exercises you use to help women reconnect with like their own inner strength?
Yeah. Okay. I feel like I want to say one other thing about self-accountability. I just want to note that the vast majority of people don't ever learn self-accountability or choice or anything like that. So if you're listening and you're like, what the heck? I choose all of it. And you're just sitting there like in shock. I have no idea what happened after she said that. Let that be okay too. And I want to share another story where this is one of the first times that it clicked for me. And then I actually want to share a moment where it really clicked. So first time I was working in a situation with a small team, and one of the people would not look me in the eyes. And this was from the time that I started. So it was not like I did anything. I just was me. And I let that result in me being very angry, very, very angry. And I essentially always have a mentor. And so I met with my mentor and I was talking about it and telling him, and he said, Steph, when are you going to take your power back? And that day I did, because I was like, oh, I'm letting her control my emotional state every day. And I don't have to. I could literally decide not to. Yes.
That's like, you didn't know that was a choice.
Didn't know it was a choice. And so the power of this is when you believe without a shadow of a doubt that you choose all of it, even if we don't know, it can be that easy to stop choosing it.
Oh, I had this one analogy one time about like, imagine that someone came and knocked on your door.
Yeah.
And when that person comes in and knocks on the door, like let's say you're in a bad mood about something, or you're allowing someone else to dictate how you feel.
Yeah.
You go and open up the door, and all of a sudden, how do you choose to speak to the person when you greet them? Right?
Yeah.
Like you immediately flip the switch.
Yeah.
And you realize you're that in control.
You're that in control.
You're that in control of how you respond.
Yes. Yes. That happened a lot in my childhood.
Really?
Yeah. I'll just leave it at that. Yeah.
Okay, you said there were two.
Okay, so
there were two things.
The next moment where it
one.
really clicked, where I was actively like applying the concepts to my life. This was my reoccurring emotional breakdown. Okay, so, month 3, here it is. And at the time I was working 2 jobs and burning the candle at both ends, completely exhausted, doing the high achiever thing. And it was a Saturday and I was trying to do something that I had not done before. And it felt really hard. It felt like, I don't know if I can do this. And then I ended up having this huge emotional breakdown to the point where I'm hyperventilating. I don't know how much time goes past and I try to do it again and I just get all worked up. So I'm useless for the whole day. And I had this in the back of my head. What if I am choosing this? Which sounds crazy. Like if I said that to somebody, they would be like, how insulting.
Yeah.
You think I'm choosing to have an emotional breakdown every 3 months?
Unsympathetic.
Yes. So no judgment to myself or to anyone. What if you are? And there's this concept that I use with students that's called payoffs. So we get these hidden rewards for continuing to have an experience that we say that we don't want. And I have a tool for them so that it's real easy to identify. So I whip out the tool for myself, of course. And I realize that there are a lot of hidden rewards. I have this identity at this point in my life that I am a hard worker. I'm responsible. I do what I say I'm going to do, all that kind of stuff. And at some point, I got these things mixed up with the idea that I can't rest. And so I put this pattern in my life unintentionally, subconsciously, where I would work until I couldn't anymore. And I would have an emotional breakdown so that I could rest. No one could question that I was a hard worker. No one could question that I was responsible, that I had, would do what I say I was going to do, all these things. And then this happens and it's not my fault. I have to rest.
Yes.
So if I show up with high self-accountability and I take breaks and allow myself to do that before my body says, hello, what are you doing? I've never had this pattern of reoccurring emotional breakdown since then. That was 2014.
Wow.
That's the power of choice.
It totally is the power of choice.
And I mean, I remember, I was in a group with Dr. Steph's community, and it is really powerful having that group, because there's so many things I feel like that you can resonate with people or learn from other people. And I know, I won't say her name, but one of your clients, she was saying kind of like the same thing you were, but she was like making herself sick in a way. She was like, oh, I'm getting sick like every, like, I can't remember the frequency, like maybe 2 months or something. And she was like, yeah, it's because like I was go. And then I would like I would physically get sick, like almost like choose to get sick so I could rest. I was like, oh my God, wow. That we do have so much power.
We've talked a lot about like the dis-ease, and that dis-ease in the body is all created. I mean, a lot of it can happen right here in the mind. The chronic back issues and chronic, all the chronic problems, illnesses.
It's suppression of emotions.
Have you ever read Louise Hay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you have.
Anytime I do mind-body connection, I'm pulling out my Louise Hay book. I'm like, all right, does this resonate? Yeah, okay. That's good.
She was on it, on point.
I love her.
I can't say like I agree with everything, but like definitely, like I do think that there's still like acute illnesses that just like happen. Like you can't.
Like we're talking about chronic.
But yes, chronic.
Yeah.
So
autoimmune stuff.
Yes. I totally agree there.
Bravery. I didn't forget. Okay.
Yes.
So Brave is the name of my company.
Tell us about, tell us about what you do.
Brave Method, and everything's Brave branded. So Bravecation is my 5-day retreat. Brave Academy is my group program. And I used to feel broken, and doing the inner work got me to the place where I just feel brave all the time. Not every single moment.
When you brand yourself as brave, like that is your mantra.
That is it.
It is something you think about all the time. So that word is so deeply ingrained into your psyche and your subconscious, and everything that you do. Guess what? You're probably really fucking brave.
My husband, he actually helped me come up with the name.
Did he?
I went through, goodness gracious, I think 30 words trying to figure it out. And I'm like, nothing feels right. And then he was like, what about brave? I was like, this was like a week or two long process. And I was like, that's it. And then he found this song. I wish I could remember her last name, but the name of the song I think is Brave, and her name's Sarah. And it's like doing the work. Like it's like perfect. So
no way.
Yeah. And he found it too. I'm like,
that's
my
crazy.
gosh,
You'll have to share that with us sometime.
Yeah. So your question was like, how do we find our courage?
Strength.
Like our own strength. Yeah.
first place that my mind goes is to recognize that fear is driving your behavior the vast majority of the time. And then you get to ask yourself, what do I want my relationship with fear to be? Do I want to recognize I'm afraid and to let it stop me and to listen to it and let it rule my life? Or do I want to treat it like it's a good friend with terrible advice? We have all had those. We're like, yeah, that's cute.
Oh,
moving
so
on.
cute. Yeah.
You're so cute. Yeah. That's what fear is. Oh, you're so cute. I respect you. I honor you. And I'm not listening. I'm not going to listen.
Yeah. Like you recognize it and you have that awareness that like, oh, that's fear popping up for me right now.
Yes.
I have had to go through like several, like especially like being on camera more and just like putting myself out there as a strength trainer and stuff. I don't mean to make this about me, by the way. I'm sorry.
Do it. Yeah.
But like, but I feel like I definitely have to like acknowledge those times where I have that mindset, like of that fear pops up for me and I'll sometimes like let it stop me. And then I'll be like, no, stop. Like, okay, you don't let that stop you. Just like keep moving forward. Like you are powerful. You're strong. Like, you know, everything that you need to know. Like you are capable of and worthy of being a strength coach and like doing this podcast and stuff, even though like sometimes fear makes me not feel like that, you know, like I'm not always brave, but like when I do overcome those things, it feels so great and empowering, you know?
Watching you over the last couple years has been incredible.
Aww.
Just seeing all of the shifts, the goals that you had, meeting those, exceeding those, listening to the advice, the coaching where I'm like, okay, come on, Cassie.
I was ready for it.
Yes.
I'm still like, I want to go do another one because I feel like I'll just be like that much better.
Yes.
But no, it's been like I said, you've been such a great mentor towards me.
Thank you.
Like even watching you, how much you've grown since we first talked, you know, like we both kind of seen each other grow in different ways. And that's been really, really fun to witness.
Thank you. And part of what you said, for me, I still have fear. And it's not like, oh, I have to be unafraid to do this. It's, I'm going to recognize there's fear there and do it anyways.
Yeah. Like something that I've been wanting to do is just like get out and like speak about how important I feel like strength training is for women and how it can even like not just physically, but like mentally help make you stronger and get over like those mental barriers and work through your emotions. Like I just feel like there's so many tools within it and just like talking about that with other people. And like, I know in public speaking, for me, it's just something that's been really hard, especially like a live presentation or something. But, you know, someday.
I think you would do incredible. And so what if it's not someday? It's like now, and I let myself witness myself get better and better.
Yeah.
Because I used to shake when I spoke in front of people. This is back in high school. If I had to stand up, give a presentation, my body would literally shake. And by the time I was at the end of my career at NASA, I was speaking to the top executives totally fine. Like they were my friends.
Wow.
Only because I just kept doing it.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times people will be like, oh, like I shake or I this or I that. And it's like, well, yeah, you just do it anyways.
Right.
Maybe we should regulate your nervous system too. So we'll do that too. But just do it and don't wait.
Yeah.
The way that you're going to get better is to get out there sooner.
Okay.
So you left NASA. So you left NASA, and then was there this moment where did you go straight into the Brave podcast and building your own business?
So I had my second daughter, March 2020, COVID.
Okay.
And
we are all COVID moms.
We are COVID moms.
I just noticed
went through a lot.
Sorry.
We went through a lot, man.
Through a lot. Oh my God.
So I hit one of the lowest points of my life. And I loved working at NASA. I was at the top of my career. Everything was going well. And I was just like, F it. Yeah. And my husband was like, you want to leave, but you like working. You love working there. I'm like, yeah, Yep, I'm leaving. So I started my business June 2020, first post, you know.
Yeah.
And January 2021, I left. And so I did not have any business leaving. 6 months into it, I wasn't making a lot of money. I was making money, but not a lot. And so I got what is called a bridge job. And I worked part-time for a consulting company as a coach. And then I built my business at the same time. Then June 2022, I left and I've been on my own since then.
Wow.
The podcast is newer. I started it in 2023.
So your social media that's how you were getting most of your clients first.
Yep.
And okay. Wow.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
So you became brave at that moment. Like that was the name of your
from day one. Yeah. I came up with maybe not day one, but September 2020, I took a business program. And in part of that, we were to come up with a name for our signature program. And that's when I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So that's when the Brave method
came about. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So I officially opened my business, filed my paperwork with Florida, October 2020.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been so great seeing everything and seeing how many people have started to become your clients and stuff. Because I've been asking my family and stuff go do this, because I do feel like it's just so empowering and helpful, on an inner level, so.
Thank you.
So, how could somebody, if they're feeling anxious and really uncertain right now, and this is all a lot of information, what would you suggest that maybe one way that they can start moving forward into bravery, into self-love, and all the things that you teach?
Yeah. Very first step, without giving a lot of homework, but then I'll do that next.
Sure.
Is first tap into the very first thing that I mentioned is, what else am I feeling? Because anxiety is masking it. And so you can go to Google and search for emotion wheel, and you'll have a whole slew of terms. I found a lot of people, especially those who identify as anxious, their vocabulary of emotions is small. They don't know a lot of emotional words. So download that, create a blank note in your phone, or if you want to write it, that's fine too. And every single time that you feel anxious, pull out the emotion wheel and ask yourself, what else am I feeling? And you'll notice it's a very wide variety of things. And so that alone will be data, because we are going to address the granular emotion differently than we would anxiety. So if I feel anxious because I feel actually what's underneath it is overwhelmed, and later I'm feeling anxious and I feel inadequate, and later I feel anxious and I feel unlikable, we're going to do very different things there than if we just looked at anxiety.
Yeah. So what you're saying is anxiety is more of a feeling and not an emotion. I don't know if you can separate those two, but you're just kind of saying anxiety isn't really an emotion.
Right. So an emotion is the chemical response that happens in 60 to 90 seconds. A feeling is that plus the meaning that we put on it. That's more complicated than anybody needs to know, but just look for what is anxiety masking, just so you can actually begin to get to know yourself better. That's a good first step. Obviously not going to solve the problem. Next step, go watch my free training, because I go through the 4 steps that I take people through to overcome anxiety. I actually don't mention this tool that I said right now in that training at all, but I go over what those big overarching steps are.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure to link that, because that will help. Yeah. That will help our listeners. And I would love to go take the free training too. That'd be fun. Just to find out how I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, and I think, if you are feeling anxiety, no, you're not alone. I've felt that. I sometimes still feel it. Thank God, not to the level that I used to. But
the goal really isn't to eliminate it.
Yeah.
Right. It's to make it so it's not a daily
yeah
occurrence.
Yeah.
Maybe monks, like, do you think monks don't have, I'm sure they do. Like,
They're
we
feeling
all do.
all of it. Yeah.
Okay, one other question that that kind of just popped into my head. So when you said like make mistakes and have failures and stuff, like how do you suggest that I or whoever else that experiences like a failure, like how do we get through that? Because I know, like, for instance, when I like applied for a job, I didn't get it, and like that really brought me down. How do you suggest that we go through it? Do we like just feel kind of like that emotion of like maybe it's sadness or like anger, I guess, and then kind of like work from there, and then like don't let that like just keep going? Or I don't know.
Lots that we could do.
Okay.
Maybe the most important thing is, what am I making this mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So before I applied for NASA, I applied for a job at General Dynamics, and I didn't get it. I don't even think I got an interview, which is a little bit surprising.
Yeah.
But okay. And I could have made that mean a lot of things. I could have made it mean that I'm not good enough. I could have made it mean that I'm going to have a hard time getting a job when I graduate. I was still in grad school at that point. I could have made it mean that, I don't know how to write a cover letter. The list could go on and on and on. Our brain is always putting meaning on every single thing in life. And so notice, what meaning am I putting on this? And then you get to choose if you believe it.
That's such a tangible way to deal with it, I feel like.
Yes.
Like super tangible, because I'm like, okay, I can like feel the emotion. Like the emotion really sucks right now.
Yeah.
And like, I'm going to let myself do that. But like,
that's important.
At the same time, like understanding what I'm making it mean.
Yeah.
That's really powerful.
Because I could make it mean, and now I do, this is where my mind goes, is that I am always being taken care of by the universe, always. And so me not getting this opportunity, now I see this in hindsight, but I do operate in this way. It's this or something better. And like, come on, NASA's way better than, sorry, General Dynamics. Clearly.
Yeah. Like there's definitely a greater, more defined plan
that we just don't understand
you don't see
sometimes.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't know how it's going to end up.
And what if I trust that everything is always working out?
Yes.
Life, like,
and you don't know how you're going to get there, but somehow
it always
you're going to get there. Yeah.
You're gonna end up where you're meant to be.
And it might not always like come at the time that you expect it to come,
or that you
plan for it to come.
Yep.
Us control freaks.
But you gotta let go because you're not in control.
Never are, never will be.
Oh, I think that's a great note to end on. I could talk to you for hours.
I really could.
Like it has been such a pleasure to sit with you and talk with you about all of these things. It's like bringing back memories of everything. I love it. I'm like, I feel like I just got a training right now.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. So like Steph said, she has an incredible free training where she walks you through the 4 key steps to breaking free from anxiety for good. We'll make sure to link that in the show notes, so be sure to check that out. As always, thank you for spending this time with us. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, Sunseekers, keep playing, keep growing, and keep finding your light.
Have a good one. Or have a great one, right? Yeah. See you later.
Just before you go, if you want to sprinkle some love our way without spending a dime, why not hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel? It's like giving us a hug through the internet. So please give that button a little tap and join our Sun family.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you found the discussions enlightening and inspiring. Please note that the information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only. All opinions expressed here are solely our own and do not reflect the views of any sponsors or affiliate partners.
And before you apply any of the health strategies discussed on the podcast, we recommend consulting with a professional to ensure it is appropriate for your specific circumstances.
Remember, we're here to spark conversation and ideas, not substitute for any professional advice.